Hello, beautiful people. Hail and welcome to my channel. I am Lady Calamere, and I am doing my 80th video. And today's presentation will be on the Chinese goddess Chang'e. Yeah, it's pronounced different than what it's spelled, but in Mandarin, Chang'e. I know people in America, we like to say, I heard people say Shang-O, Chang-O, Shang-O, and it's actually a wrong pronunciation. So in Mandarin it will be Shang-U, but it depends on the dialect of the Chinese language that you're speaking. Her name will be spoken differently. And in some pronunciations I can't even pronounce. So anyways, I've known about this goddess for over 20 years. Way over 20 years. And I've actually come to really enjoy her and respect her and honor her to the point where I got this image of her. And yes, I did cover her with a silky ribbon because I have no problem with a nude figure. However, I did not feel it's respectful because they don't show her naked. I've never seen, so I wanted to do that for her. So I used to kept calling her Shang-O and Shang-O, and I remember I went to one of my favorite Chinese restaurants down here, and there's a hole in the wall, but the food is absolutely great. You know what I mean? And I saw the picture on the wall, and I said, oh, that's the goddess of the Shang-O. Shang-O. And she was like, huh? The goddess. Shang-O? She looked at me, and I said, the moon, the goddess on the moon. She said, oh, Shang-O. And, you know, it took me a bit to remember that pronunciation. But, you know, and the lady was so nice, and oh, she was actually always nice to me, and I was always nice to her, and I really missed the Chinese food there, and everywhere else I go around here, Chinese food sucks. But there, it was just, oh my God, I didn't even need MSG. It was so great. But it was such a beautiful picture of her. Now, some people here in America like to say she is the moon. No, she's not. She is a lunar goddess, but she is not the moon. She lives on the moon. She's the lady on the moon, the lady of the moon, the lady who lives on the moon, but she is not the moon itself. The moon is now her abode. And in fact, her original name was not Shang-E, it was Heng-E. But two emperors had the name Heng-E, so it's pretty much bad mojo, or well, to the Chinese culture was taboo, so they named her Shang-E. But people still could call her Heng-E, you know, people still do, but they feel it's better to call, it's just weird. People call her Heng-E, no problem, but if you go to China, you're going to say Cheng'e. Oh my God, come on, man. That's my porcelain. Please, I cannot find another one like this. Now, this is not a traditional Cheng'e, but I saw it and I said, oh my God, this is definitely the moon. And it definitely reminds me of her. And you could see the lunar light about her. So there's different stories of how she became on the moon, and there's actually contradictory stories, but a lot of it has the same things to it. Not contradictory, it's just different stories, I would say. Not so much contradictory, but different stories of who she was. But we'll get into that. And there's just other stories that go along with her of who lives with her on the moon. So anyways, we have these cards. I'm going to give, we have Contemplation, which is supposed to be like the Hermit. And Chang-U from, oh, nope, wrong. Oh, please tell me I have it. I was sitting on it. The Goddess Tarot by Chris Walder. We have this one. Chang-U, Obsession, from the Dark Goddess Oracle Cards by Barbara, I can't even pronounce her, Miko John Free and Flavia Kate Peters, designed by Kate Osborne. And we have this, the Four of Swords, from this deck. Where did I put the box at? Oh my god. I had it on the floor. The Universal Goddess Tarot from the Los Cabero deck. So you can find all these on Llewellyn. So, Chang-U, her major celebration is on the 15th day of the 8th Chinese lunar month, which is the Mid-Autumn Festival, or it's also called Moon Festival, where people give her Chinese moon cakes to honor her. And they stare at the moon in hopes of seeing the lady in the moon. And they retell her stories and tales from their regional, where they come, parts of China. And at this time, they will also, at this point, ask for a boon. And during this time is when she doesn't ask for anything back. And also they light incense and they ask her a question, a divination. And the first words they hear by a passerby would be considered her words to them. So, yes, she is a goddess of divination. But remember, she is not the moon. Get that out of your mind. She is not the moon. She lives on the moon. She's Lady of the Moon. And that's what some people have to remember. So Lady Chang-U is described as very beautiful and very desirable. She's very kind. So, also I know on Chinese New Year's, she's also honored and loved. So also I want to show you another picture of her, and it's by Lisa Hunt from her book, The Celestial Goddesses. And remember, you can get all these on Amazon or eBay or your local pagan store. And I just gotta find the picture because I want to show you the picture, and it is so very beautiful. I find Chang-U to be very kind and very loving. Her husband on earth was Wu Yi, H-O-U-Y-E, but sometimes just called Yi or E. Huh. Oh, here it is. Let me get the page now. Here it is. This is absolutely a beautiful picture of the moon, goddess of the moon. So let's put that over here. So offerings to Shang-U, I might as well get on with offerings. Moon pies, which you could get them anywhere, like Walmart or anything. Moon cakes, which is, these are special cakes with different fillings. Like some have bean in it, some have watermelon seed. It's all depending on what you want from her, but you can just ask for moon cakes. It's a type of pastry. She likes melons, all types of melons, peaches, grapes, apples, pomegranates, a plum wine is a good offering to her. White wines, flowers, candy and chocolate, especially white chocolate. She does enjoy incense, rice. So those are just some of the offerings for her. Fresh water. Jong-u is very popular. She was in different books, like I believe it was, and also novels and poems. So Jong-u is not to be considered or confused with Kuan Yin. They are two different deities. So there's different stories about her, and one story is she was a goddess, and also an immortal goddess, and she was one of the goddesses that lived with the Jade Emperor. And she happened to accidentally break a vase, a very expensive vase, and the Jade Emperor was very angry and made her mortal and said that she could not come back to the immortals until she provided a valuable service. So she was born to poor farmers, and eventually she meets up with Wu Yi, who she marries. Now, how he treats her all depends on the different stories you tell. So Wu Yi eventually becomes an emperor, because in this story, there were one day, instead of one son, there were 10 sons, and these were the children of the Jade Emperor. And being the great archer that Wu Yi was, he was asked to stop this, to find some way to stop this. And because it was drying everything up, the sons would not listen to the Jade Emperor. They were being exceptionally cruel. Life was just being dried out. Everyone was suffering. So he got his archer. He was being an archer. He's got his bow and arrow, and he shot down 9 sons, and he allowed one to live. But he killed the 9 sons of the Jade Emperor, and eventually the humans rewarded him. But the Jade Emperor wasn't too happy about that his sons were killed. And of course, he was given a pill by the Queen Mother of the West. And this pill, or sometimes it's described as an elixir, being immortal. And her name was Si Wang Mu. the Queen Mother of the West, in which Wu Yi wanted to share with his wife, but it would make him a deity. It would make him immortal, unless you took the whole pill, and in which, you know, Chang'o happens upon it and swallows the whole thing, in which she becomes back to being not just immortal, but a goddess whom she floats back. She floats to the moon because she couldn't go back to with the Jade Emperor because she was banished. So she lives on the moon. Now, there's another story about how she became mortal. And this is a story where Hu Yi and Chang'o were original goddesses living with the Jade Emperor. And the Jade Emperor, of course, his son was the sun. But 9 other of his children became sons upon the earth and were unruly and were basically killing life. Everything was dying from the sun. Everything was drying up. No life can live there. And everyone was suffering. And basically the sons were unruly and would not listen to the Jade Emperor. So he went to Hu Yi. We asked, knowing that he was a divine archer, the best of the best. And he asked for help. So Hu Yi, being an archer, shot the 9 sons down. Killed them and left 1 son up. Of course, Hu Yi was punished by the Jade Emperor. Him and his wife were sent upon Earth to live as mortals, which Chang'o was not happy, nor was Wu Yi, and Chang'o begged Wu Yi to do something about this. And she also did not think it was fair that she was punished because of her husband's action, but she was. So eventually, Hu Yi has done great things in which he was able to talk to the Queen Mother of the West to get the elixir of immortality, in which she got from the Jade Rabbit. Because the Jade Rabbit, who later on takes over what Wu Gong did, and makes the pill of immortality, in which, of course, Zhang Wu takes. And she's not just immortal now, she's a goddess. So let's look at Wu Yi. Wu Yi, divine archer, was considered very honorable, very good. Now, hang on. In some stories, when he does become an emperor, he becomes very eventually demanding and cruel in some stories, in which he treats Zhang like shit. And basically, she's tired of his shit. And one day happened upon either a pill or an elixir that had like the sweetest smell her nose ever smelled. And she happened to take it. And of course, Hu Yi finds out. And in some stories, he can't bear to shoot her down. In other stories, he tries to shoot her down. And she's floating up. She can't stop floating up. She can no longer live on Earth. But she can't go back to the Jade Emperor, to the Immortals. But now she's on the moon. And that's where her abode is. The cold moon. Now, in other stories, that the elixir or the pill of immortality that he received, Feng Geng, one of his warrior servants, overheard about the immortality, and he came busting in and trying to take it for himself. And so Zhang Wu did what she thought was best and take it. And which again, she becomes a goddess. So either way, she becomes a goddess when she floats to the moon. Now, later on, Hu Yi and her they make up. They have a reconciliation. And eventually Hu Yi ascends to the sun, where the sun and the moon represents the yin and yang, the male and female, where Wu Yi is not the sun, but he lives on the sun. He has a palace on the sun. And it's later on that it was Wu Yi who builds a palace for Shang-Wu on the moon. And her palace is called the Palace of Cold, the Cold Palace, which he makes out of cinnamon tree. Now, what about that rabbit on the moon? So let's talk about the rabbit in the story, and let's talk about Wu Gang, who also lives on the moon. So Wu Gang was the original divine medicine maker. And also, he was also makes the elixir of immortality. Now, what happened is that he gave out some of this elixir to mortals, in which they become immortals. Jade Emperor was pissed, in which he got angry. So he punishes Wu Gang. And how does he punish him? Good question. He punishes him by making him cut down this tree. And he said, you'll get your position back once you cut down this tree, which is about an osmanthus tree, like a laurel tree. But here's the thing. Every time he cuts it down, it grows right back. The limbs grow right back. Now, he cuts it down, it grows right back. Cuts it down, 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 grows right back. So he represents death, where the tree represents life, where death comes, cuts it down, and then it comes back and limbs grow. So we see life, death, life, death, life, death. So it said that the place that he was put on was on the moon. But who's going to make the divine elixirs and the pill and the healing medicines and the immortalities? Well, the Jade Emperor thought, who's going to do it? Should I make a human? He says, no, because the humans, as intelligent they're also very corruptible. So he sent his 3 divine beings to go to Earth and find them an animal that would make the elixir of immortality and divine medicine. So these 3 divine beings turned themselves, or shapeshifted, into sages, and they went into a forest. And they were crying, help, help, help us, please, someone help us. And the animals heard. We haven't eaten in 3 days. We are starving. We are hungry. We can barely move. Please help us and give us some food. But the only animals that answered their call was a fox, monkey, and rabbit. Now they went off to go get them food. Monkey brought back fruit for the 3 hungry men, and fox brought back the cassava fruit, and the men ate. But rabbit came back, and he looked for food, but he had nothing. And he saw the old man eating the fruit that monkey brought and the cassava that fox brought, and the rabbit was so sad. He said, I'm so sorry. I looked and I couldn't find anything, but I know what to do. So the 3 men at the fire, they built a fire. So he saw the fire that they built, and rabbit did something selfless. He jumped into the fire so that the 3 men can eat him. Yep, jumped into the fire. Selfless act. And the 3 divine men saw the selfless act and quickly brought Rabbit back to life and brought him to the heavens. So they introduced him to the rabbit to the Jade Emperor. And the rabbit was taught how to make the elixir of immortality, which the immortals took every 1,000 years to stay immortal, right? And also make divine medicine. And the rabbit was so good at his job that the Jade Emperor put his hand over Rabbit and made him pure white jade. Yes, there is white jade. And made him shine, a shining divine light, which all the immortals called him Jade Rabbit. Now, how did Jade Rabbit end up on the moon? Well, you remember when Si Wang Mu, the Queen Mother of the West, gave Hu Yi the pill of immortality? Oh, so she comes up to Jade Rabbit because Hu Yi came up to her. And she said, you give me the elixir or pill, depending on the story, of immortality. But the rabbit said, no, I can't. I can only give it to immortals, and you already had yours. She told the rabbit, are you questioning me? No, mother, but I can't. Don't question me and just give me the pill. The rabbit was scared. How can he disobey the Queen Mother of the West? So gave him the pill. And which gave to Ku Ji, and then which Chang took and went to the moon. And of course, word got out to Jade Rabbit. I mean, the Jade Emperor. And the Jade Emperor went to the Jade Rabbit. What happened? And Jade Rabbit told him the story. And Jade Rabbit said, I will accept whatever punishment you give to me. I'm so sorry. But I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So the Jade Emperor said, I'll let you pick your punishment. How about this? I'll go live on the moon and make the medicine. So Jade Emperor then, okay. So he lived on the moon with Shang-U to keep Shang-U company. So now the rabbit is on the moon, in which the immortals, and humans can't just go and get the pill of immortality, right? So that's how Rabbit lives on the moon, and that's why we see the image of the rabbit on the moon. But also some people see and look at the image, and you also see a woman working in there. So that's how, and also Wu Gang is there, and eventually Wu Yi, every full moon he visits. The reason why it's full moon on 15th day is when Wu Yi visits her, and they love and he loves her and he adores her. So it's also, he built her a palace out of some, I believe, cinnamon tree. But anyway, she lives in the palace of cold. And that's why the moon is full on the 15th lunar day, because of Wu Yi visits her, in which he lives on the sun. So he's a solar and she's lunar. So Zhong-U is called on to protect orphans, all women, all mothers, all wives. She helps women in women, especially women of distress, women in distress. She helps women who are in an abusive relationship, because in some stories she was in a bad relationship and in which she escaped. She helps with the reconciliation between children and their parents, and husband and wives. She helps reconciliation of families, but she is, now men can call her, of course, but she's really more geared towards women. Yet when men and women love her just the same. So she's a goddess of all women and all women and all like things that would affect women. Like breast can like different types of cancer. Like men can, I know some men do get breast cancer. It's not as common as men. But of course, men are not going to get uterine cancers or fallopian tube cancers, right? So there are things that affect women that do not affect men, like pregnancy. And so I know there's a few men that can lactate, but it's not the norm. So she deals with lactation, birth, and anything with the woman's concern. So I was her colors of Shangwu is definitely silver and white, and anything that is lunar, her metal is definitely silver. Also, the stones that are associated with Shangwu or pearl, moonstone, so pearl, moonstone, and oh, what was that other stone? I'm trying to think. You could definitely use selenite with her. And selenite is a good stone to use for her. White jade. I was just talking about it. White jade. Also, there's a stone called Ye Mingzu. Y-E-H, next word M-I-N-G, and Z-H-U. So, white jade, pearl, selenite, moonstone, and Ye Mingzu. And, of course, silver. I definitely associate with night blooming jasmines with her, as well as lilies. The smell of lilies is really good for her. So Shong-e can help women find their power. She can also help you to ascend. She's a goddess of ascension. So if you have fallen down from your pedestal or from a position of power, she can help you rise again like she did, but it will be different, of course. Divinations. She also will help a woman become pregnant, and also the protection to help a woman during pregnancy and labor. She's good for children. Please, if you know of any child abuse going on, don't just light a candle. Don't just say a prayer. Call CPS if you really definitely know child abuse is going on, and call the police. You know, definitely do that. But if that's been done, then do your spells and call Sheng U to help. But remember, if you don't take action and you just pray, it's sort of like seeing someone on fire and just say, I'll pray for you, instead of trying to put them out. I'll light a candle for you while you're burning up. Do something. So yes, I believe in spell work and prayer work and meditation, but I also believe in taking action too. Yeah, that's good. So her animal is definitely the rabbit, and hares, of course. And the jade rabbit keeps her company, is her friend. Otherwise, she's lonely, and she's definitely a goddess of contemplation. But she also deals with those who are lonely and those who don't feel right, and also those who have OCD is one that you can contact Shong O for, and she deals with uh, loneliness, depression, when you feel unworthy, when you feel like you've just hit bottom, as Shong O did in these stories. It depends on the story where she was kicked out of heaven by the Jade Emperor, or when from breaking a vase, or from because of her husband. Either way, she was kicked out, and she lived a life of destitute. And then sometimes and in some stories she lived in a bad relationship. Either way, but we see that she becomes a goddess again. She cannot, but she's lonely. But then later on, Yi and so make up. So another thing is that she grants wishes, especially on the Mid Autumn Harvest Festival, or like the Autumn Harvest Festival, which happens around September 22nd, right around that time. So again, it falls on a lunar calendar, not a solar calendar, with her story. Now, also another animal that's associated with Shang is a toad. Now, in some stories that she comes as a three-legged toad, or that she has a companion that's a three-legged toad. Cinnamon is definitely a good herb for her, as her palace is made of cinnamon. But also the tree, the woodcutter, who like I told you, or Wu Gong, who is the woodcutter now, who used to do the elixir. It's like a laurel tree, osmanthus. Can also be associated with her. So there is a mention, miscellaneous. I'd be stupid not to mention it. So the moon god Shang was mentioned in conversation with Houston Capcom with the crew of Apollo 11 right before the moon landing. And they told them to look out. They were saying that they say that on the moon there's a beautiful lady who's with a big rabbit, and who should be easy to spot. And that easy to spot because it's standing on his hind feet in the shade of a tree. And they would say, okay, we'll keep a close eye out for the bunny girl. Now, other than that, China launched its first lunar probe in 2007. Yeah, 2007. They launched a lunar probe, and they named it Chang'e, in honor of the goddess on the moon. So Chang'e It's spelled different ways, and it's like C. I'm gonna spell it on my site. And she's becoming more known by the pagan community and by Wiccans and witches that are calling her. So Shang-U's birthday is actually considered the harvest, the mid-autumn. So that's when actually is why it's also celebrated of her. The autumn festival is her birthday. So it's a big celebration to her. She also helps with beauty and help you become more graceful. In fact, Shang-U is usually means beautiful lady. She's called at least she's called a beautiful lady, an old graceful maiden. So she'll definitely help you with beauty spells. And she will help not just outer beauty, but inner beauty, and also to live in beauty. So maybe you want a more beautiful home, a more beautiful job, a more beautiful life. She can help with that. She helps with contemplation and meditation. And she is the power of courage. She will help you with that. And for, like I said, fertility and pregnancy. So she's going to help you to stand up for yourself and also to take pride in yourself. Shang-U will also help you when you're feeling sad or depressed, to help you in those times that, especially if you feel bleak and worried about things, she can help you with that too. So I know these times, we're living in crazy times and during the COVID times, so Chong-U, I think she's in some animations. I'm not sure. But either way, she's very popular in China. In China, like I said, she's in a lot of poems and novels, and she's always described as being very lovely. So now some statues sometimes represent her holding a moon disc in her raised right hand, and the hair is present there. And typical paintings show Shang-U floating towards the moon, and often with her palace in the background. And she's very beautiful, very luminous. So Shang-U can help you rise in popularity if you're feeling you're being overlooked, or if you're feeling undervalued, or if you're just feeling just not being appreciated, Shongu could be used for for spells involving that, or prayers or meditation. So anyways, I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to thank all my subscribers. I want to thank you for all the kind comments I've been receiving. I really appreciate that. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give me a thumbs down. Oh, and you know what else? You can give them wicked moon cakes. You ever see those? Some people make them. You can make moon-shaped cakes. Either way. But if you like my video, please like and subscribe. And today, if you were, I don't have a Patreon, but let's say I did, which I don't right now. I don't even plan to get one. Well, let's just say I did. The money that you would send to me, what I want you to do is send it to children charities, any like children's shelters to help women and children, or help families in distress, or give it to Make-A-Wish Foundation or St. Jude's Hospital, and also any charities that help hares and rabbits. And also, yeah, send the money there if you were to send money. Otherwise, I'm not asking you to spend your money that you don't have. I won't do that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, blessed be.